in style. Slip into something elegant. New Corsair 2000E, wearing a distinctive black vinyl roof. A handsome interior, luxurious seats. Rich walnut fascia, deep pile carpeting, luxury all round. And under the stylish bonnet, a powerful 2-liter V4 engine. Shh, slip into something elegant and simply slip away. New Corsair 2000E. At your Ford dealers now.
Welcome back. What a lovely interview that was, Paul. It was very moving. I think I got something in my eye at one point there. James sounds like a really great guy.
Yeah, he certainly is, Rich. Anyway, time now for our classic shootout. And this week, we're taking a look at two of Britain's best-loved classic sports cars.
Yeah, I love this feature. And we're talking, as we trailed last week, about the MG Midget and the Triumph Spitfire.
Absolutely.
Two of the smallest sports cars of their time, but amongst the best sellers when new. Both of them were big hits in the UK, of course, and they were also very popular in the USA, which was traditionally the world's biggest market for two-seater roadsters.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have memories from being at the wheel of a Midget or a Spitfire.
Yeah, well, I certainly have. The Midget, of course, was derived from the old Austin Healey Frog Eye Sprite.
Of course.
And I own both the original Sprite and then the later MG.
Yeah, didn't you also have a Spitfire, though, at one point?
Yeah, when I was very young, I had a 68 model, and that was great fun. Loved that car. Of course, early examples of both those cars, they're fetching pretty decent prices these days, but it's still possible to grab a bargain.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the any Mark 1 or Mark 2 Midget or Spitfire, if it's in good condition, it's no longer the cheap and cheerful choice that it once was. But for anyone on a tighter budget, the later models, Rich, they're looking like good value now.
Well, later models, I assume you're talking about the rubber bumper Midget and the
Absolutely.
Spitfire with the 1500 engine, in which case, forgive me if I opt straight away for the Triumph. I'm sorry, but the Midget, I feel that was utterly ruined by those huge rubber bumpers. They looked okay on the B, but they raised the suspension. I know they had to do it to comply with US legislation, but by comparison, the designers at Spitfire, they managed to keep it looking elegant right to the end.
Well, yeah, you're right. But this suits me because I've got to admit I have a soft spot for the later Midgets. I mean, you know me, an underdog, Rich. Anyway, funnily enough, it's let's not forget it shared the same 1493C engine as the later Spitfires.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because when they launched, of course, MG and Triumph, they were rival manufacturers.
Yeah.
MG was part of the British Motor Corporation.
That's
Triumph
right,
was part of Leyland Motors, the commercial vehicle manufacturer.
Yeah, but I mean, by the late 60s, well, we'd seen so many changes within the British motor industry that decade. Companies like MG were suddenly all part of British Leyland by 1968, 69. And I can only apologise, Rich, for mentioning that favourite company of yours again.
Well, I forgive you, Paul. But yes, the later Midgets and the Spitfires were, well, if you like, they became in-house rivals, and there wasn't a lot of difference between them in price either, was there?
No, there wasn't. I mean, let me pop on my anorak again, Rich, because I'll give you the exact figures if you like.
Oh, yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah, you know me. Okay, 1979, that was the final year of Midget production, and the little MG then, it was priced at around £3,500 in the UK.
Do you know what the Spitfire was?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
That was around £300 more. So pretty much in the same ballpark. There was less than 10% between them. And let's face it, it's a similar situation today with the later Midgets and the Spitfire 1500s. They're roughly the same value. I mean, project cars can be found cheaply, of course, and immaculate examples. Well, they can fetch the best part of £10,000. But there is a sweet spot in the range where a late Midget or a Spitty can be found in good condition for perhaps between £5,000, £6,000, £7,000. It won't be perfect, of course, but it'll be solid, tidy, presentable, ready to enjoy this summer.
Yeah, I must admit, I did couple of years or so ago, I bought a rubber bumper midget, quite
Yeah.
a nice one, for next to no money. My friend Nigel took off the bumpers. We gave it a bit more of a stripped-down look.
Nice.
And, do you know, it really worked. I thought it looked a lot better.
Yeah, I must admit, though, those black bumper midgets, they have grown on me over the years. I mean, when it launched for the 1975 model year, the Midget 1500, it was, of course, a way of complying with American safety regs without major expense or massive re-engineering. Because, of course, let's face it, British Leyland, they couldn't afford to develop a range of brand new sports cars. And so the Midget and the bigger MGB were given those controversial changes that included the big bumpers for their final few years.
Yeah, well, of course, you've always had a bit of a thing about rubber, haven't you?
I'm not going there.
Well, if the Midget 1500 and the Spitfire 1500, if they both shared the same engine, then which one was the quickest? Because, well, I've driven both, and I'd say there's not a lot in it.
No, there's not. I mean, both cars would go just beyond the 100 miles per hour mark, and they'd hit 60 in 12, 13 seconds. And I know those figures weren't exactly spectacular, even when the cars were new. But the thing is, they always felt a whole lot quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're sat in a tiny two-seater, pretty low to the floor, the roof's down, you're always going to feel as though you're going faster than if you're in a normal car with exactly the same performance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, of course, Paul. I mean, these cars, they're all about the overall driving experience rather than out-and-out performance.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
I guess they're the ultimate proof that you don't need to go crazy fast to have fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And fun is what the Midget and the Spitfire did best, even in their later years. I mean, Rich, just have a listen to this American market advert that MG issued in 1978 for the Midget.
It's got 4 wheels and reflexes so quick, it almost seems alive. It's perfectly balanced to perform and perform and perform. It's the wide-open sports car, MG Midget. A moving experience. The lowest priced authentic sports car on the market. MG Midget. Strong, honest, fun, young. MG Midget. From British Leyland.
Yeah, that's a great old ad, Paul. The wide-open sports car. I remember that slogan over in the States, but, of course, the Spitfire, that also did very well over there.
Yeah, it did, of course. I mean, America was traditionally the biggest market for tri-sports cars. The bigger TR line, that always did very well over there.
Oh, yes.
And although the Spitfire was tiny by American standards, it certainly had plenty of US fans.
Yeah, absolutely, it really did. And I tell you what, if you're allowed to play an American ad for the Midget, then you're going to have to indulge me, Paul.
Okay, then.
Here's one for the Spitfire from the same year as yours, 1978.
Excellent.
This is the Triumph Spitfire. Sports Car Club of America class champion for the 10th year. A classic example of the survival of the fittest. Strong survivor of an all but vanished breed, the Roadster. Intimate by design, the Spitfire offers the luxury of the maximum amount of driving pleasure for 2. You, and perhaps someone you're especially fond of. The Triumph Spitfire Roadster. From British Leyland.
Interesting, isn't it, that both ads, they seem to park back to the golden days of the Roadster. I mean, that Spitfire ad of yours, Rich, it even called the sports car an all but vanished breed.
Yeah, that's quite poignant, really.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, and, well, by the time that Midget ad of yours was broadcast, of course, the little MG was in its final stages, wasn't it?
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, the very last Midget, it rolled out of Abingdon, the traditional home of MG, on December the 7th, 1979.
Trust you to know that.
Of course.
It was a Wednesday, wasn't
Well,
it?
it probably was. About 4 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, Rich, although the 1500 Midget, it wasn't liked by everyone, thanks to those damn bumpers, it was still a big seller by MG standards. I mean, did you know just under 74,000 were sold in total, which that wasn't bad after such a controversial update in late 74.
No, OK, I admit that despite its slightly dubious appearance, the old rubber bumper Midget, that was still a decent seller. But I'm going to surprise you with a bit of my own knowledge now.
That's the first. No, OK, do you want to borrow my anorak?
Oh, not quite, mate. I
Okay.
don't want to stoop that low. But did you know that the Spitfire 1500, which, let's face it, launched in the same year as the Midget 1500, late 74, that managed to find almost 96,000 customers. So that's 20,000 odd more than the Midget of yours.
Yeah, but let's not forget the Spitfire stayed in production for almost another year, so the last one wasn't built until late 1980s.
Yeah, that's not my point. You see, if they'd both been dropped, say, at the same time, the Spitty would still have been the most successful, and rightly so.
Well,
it was only marginally dearer than the Midget 1500. It looked so much better, and I reckon that it felt a little bit more nimble on the road as well.
Well, maybe. I mean, I've never driven a Midget, even a late model example, that wasn't huge fun. I mean, I know that a well-sorted Spitfire 1500, yeah, it's a good performer, and it's great fun on the right kind of twisty B road.
Thank you.
But I reckon the Midget manages to keep pace.
Yeah, well, it might do, Paul, but I just find with the later Midgets, you just feel as if you're sitting just a fraction too high for a little sports car. I think the earliest ones, they were huge fun despite their lack of power, but the 1500, that just seems to lack the low-down fun factor to me.
Okay, but Rich, do you really want to be sat that low at your age?
Oh.
I mean, we might have trouble getting you back up again.
Oh, you cheeky blighter. you know, I was almost, until then, coming round to your idea of supporting the Midget.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was, after all, the last of the tiny MG sports cars. But, you know, for your insolence, I'm going to stick with the Spit. Yeah. Better selling, better looking car out of the two.
Okay, well, each to their own, Rich.
Classic Car Shootout is brought to you by David Manners Group, Classic MG and Triumph Parts Specialists. For more details, visit davidmanners.co.uk.
What a day, feeling swell. Hey, say, Mr. Shell, let's do the town on Shell. I'm with you, Sammy. Well, hop right in. We'll see the lot on Shell. I say, will you stop at the ritziest shops? We'll swing around on Shell. Got a smart tit for tat, a brawly in that. I must have a flower in my lapel. There goes my horse, last round the course, but I've got my shirt on Shell. Just made the show with a minute to go. You're always there on Shell. Keep going well, keep going Shell. You can be sure of Shell. Keep going well, keep going Shell. You can be sure of Shell. What a gas.
Well, that's it for it this week. We're back next week with more classic car news, more people, and more chat. And in our Classic Shootout feature next week, we check out a pair of modern classic sports cars when we pitch the Mazda MX-5 against the Fiat Barchetta.
Can't wait.
Thanks to the Team Supreme, that's Tom, our producer, and Mr. T. And thanks to you for listening. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and rate us and follow us on Facebook at Classic Car Talk. And if you didn't like the show, then it's all Paul's fault.
No, it's Richard's fault.
So until next week, drive safe and see you around.
You've been listening to Classic Car Talk with Paul and Richard. Now one fancies getting behind the wheel of the Royal Bentley. Vroom!
Well, I talked to my mechanic and he told me not to panic as he pulled my engine out with a wind. He's got to keep it overnight.